Our next presenter is Professor Emeritus Harry Hall from Indiana Wesleyan University. Dr. Hall earned a BA in psychology from Augusta State University, a master's degree in school administration, and a doctorate in educational leadership from the University of North Carolina at Charlotte. In 2001, Dr. Hall joined the faculty at Indiana Wesleyan University after a 10-year career as a public school administrator, principal and assistant principal, and teacher in North Carolina. Before going into teaching, Dr. Hall completed a 28-year career in the Army as a pilot and combat arms officer that included 2 tours of duty in Vietnam. While at Indiana Wesleyan University, Dr. Hall has presented at regional, national, and international conferences on topics ranging from electronic portfolios and assessment systems to developing differentiated learning activities. He has conducted numerous research projects, most recently on the impact of adult literacy on success in higher education. The presentation topic will be quality instruction and learning. Is it taking place in our classroom?
Well, after that last presentation, I guess we're all going to be replaced in 50 years, so I don't know why we're having this conference. That was really a thought-provoking presentation. I thought about my wife going shopping in 50 years and realized that all she'd have to do was think about what she wanted, and the computer would automatically know all her preferences, what color she liked, what size she was, and then it would scour the market and find the most ideal product and send it home, and money would disappear somehow. I don't know. Great topic. Thank you. I need to ask you, what's the role of education? All of you are here, and I think it's a topic that's near and dear to our hearts. Is it learning or sorting? Our traditional education programs tend to be sorting. In other words, who's going to complete their bachelor's degree, and then how well prepared and how ideally suited will they be for a master's and doctoral programs. Our traditional programs tend to focus on adult learning, and adult learning is significantly different. I'm not sure why we have 2 kinds, but I can tell you the traditionalists don't really care for adult learning, and adult learning looks down their nose at the traditionalists. I don't know where you all fit in that, but we'll work around that. Are we being successful? We should always remember that we're a service industry. We serve our customers, and who are our customers? They are our students, their parents, believe it or not, employers, people who will eventually end up using the power, the knowledge, the ability of these students of ours, and finally the public. We have a reputation to maintain, and the public is the one that decides it. What factors do they consider? And one more, a word near and dear to our heart, and that's accreditors. In education, we are concerned with IMCIC, but almost every professional organization has someone that they worry about as to whether or not they will be accredited and consequently be able to have the students they need. You know, successful teaching or learning, which is really the most important thing, is truly a team effort. Many of you, most of you, I think, are probably professors. You are the team leaders. You are the people that are responsible for learning that goes on in our classrooms. Students, they are an essential part, but they can be very varied, and you don't know why they're there. You don't know often what motivates them. My first class that I taught at Indiana Wesleyan. I work in the adult department, in case you haven't figured that out. And I was teaching a master's in education program. And I went to this class, the very first class. It was about the 8th course in a master's program. And I started teaching, felt very good, very pumped up, had about 30 adult students. And about a half hour into the class, in walks this young lady. She's carrying her McDonald's bag, and she had her biscuit, her orange juice, and her coffee. And she came in and sat down in the back of the room, spread out a napkin, and proceeded to eat her breakfast. And this took about 30 minutes. And then shortly after that, she kind of got droopy, and she put her head down, and she slept for about 30 minutes. Now, I don't know if this has happened to you, but it stunned me. And so we had this thing called participation, because we require our students at Indiana Wesleyan to participate in the learning process. They have to be engaged, because we know active learning is the way students learn best. And so when I looked at her grade, I thought, let's see, she wasn't there for 30 minutes, and she didn't learn much while she was eating, and then she took a nap for about 30 minutes. So I deducted for that exercise all of the participation points. Well, when it got back to her, and she ended up getting a C for the course, by the way, she appealed, and which I almost died laughing. But it's better because she appealed in the sense of she didn't sleep that long. I don't know if you've had students like that, but students are essential for the learning process. Another factor that we have to consider is the learning environment. At Indiana Wesleyan, we taught a master's program online and on-site, but we required them to come in 8 hours a day on Saturday for a class. And I don't know if you know what it's like to sit down for 8 hours, but it's butt-numbing. It's the only way I can describe it. And guess what? We had rock-hard chairs. No cushioning in there. And the faculty fought and fought to get padding in the chairs. But that's an example of the environment that you have to consider. Next is the reading level. The curriculum needs to meet the needs of the students, not the other way around. If you happen to catch my presentation this afternoon, I will describe some very upsetting facts to you about the reading level of our students, particularly adult students. And too often, our curriculum is written on the 13th and 14th grade level, but our students only average in the 8th, 9th grade level. Now, traditional students average a little bit more, but still, when you have a classroom of traditional students, you will have some students in there who do not read at that level. So if you ask them to read at that level, to do work at that level, it's just about guaranteed you're going to lose them. And we don't need to lose students. And so the curriculum, learning leadership. Our leaders need to support learning. They're not there to be popular. They're not there to be elected by the other professors to be the supervisor of that section. They're there to make sure that learning takes place in the classroom. And finally, student support at home, which is just so important. Okay, how do we know learning is taking place? Well, we've got to measure our students, first of all. Student enrollment. Obviously, if you don't have any students, you're not being successful. And the old adage of build it and they will come doesn't apply. You have to have a reputation, you have to have a quality program, and you have to ensure that you're measuring what the students are learning. To do this, there's a couple of ways we need to do it. At Indiana Wesleyan, we measure, first of all, student satisfaction. After 6 months of being at Indiana Wesleyan, how are they doing? How do they feel about their program? What's the student support like? And then we also have an end-of-program survey. And we ask them simple questions like, did you learn what we said you were supposed to learn? Were you treated with respect? All of these things are essential. Why did they come? What did they learn? Would they choose us again? In other words, did they get a bang for their buck? And then each course should have an end-course survey, and that should focus on what they learned. It's not a popularity contest. You're not there to please the students. We've had some faculty who say, I don't want to survey my students because if I give them a C, they'll give me a bad grade. Well, first of all, it's not there to grade faculty. It's there to assess students and to ask them important questions about the learning process. Finally, 15-year lesson. I taught at Indiana Wesleyan for 15 years, and one of the things I learned is you can't please all the people all the time. And on end-of-course surveys, you're always going to have, even if you teach the most powerful class possible, and I don't know if it's in 50 years it'll be a computer that knows your learning style and knows how to, anyway. For me, there were always one or two people that thought I was the worst professor in the world. But you just have to take that as it is. Program assessment. You need to make sure that you know that your program is teaching people what they need to be successful in life and in their profession. And too often we don't measure that. We don't know how effective our programs have been. We don't know who is teaching. It's just so critical. Some people look at their classroom as kind of their kingdom. And I don't know if you're one of those people. If you are, please forgive me. But we have to have open classrooms. We need to be inviting. We need to have administrators that will come into our classroom anytime and should feel welcome. And we need to look for constructive ideas on how to improve our teaching. If our students aren't learning what they're supposed to be learning, we have wasted their time, their money, and our efforts, and we should not do that. Learning accountability. What is learned? Teaching principles. How effective are we at integration, differentiating instruction, caring? You know, students don't learn unless they really believe that you care about what they're learning. My wife is a fourth grade teacher, and the same principles apply even to college students. Her students didn't learn unless they really believed that she cared about them. And our students don't either. So, how do we do that? We also need to look at how we observe the classroom. I've seen all different kinds. Observed, announced, unannounced. We can't do announced all the time. I have seen faculty that teach a powerful class when it's announced. But then students tell me that when the supervisor's not there, the class disintegrates into a storytelling operation. And we don't need that. We don't need that. Our faculty need to be assessed on their scholarship, their collegiality, course and program learning outcomes, how effective they are. And to do that, you have to gather data. And I was interested in the previous presentation because analyzing the data is the step we're at right now. That data is out there. You can find out what people are learning and how effective your program has been. So we want to look at institutional learning outcomes. For example, Indiana Wesleyan University, our school, school mission. Our school mission was that Indiana Wesleyan is a Christ-centered academic community preparing students to change the world through leadership, scholarship, and character development. Well, how do you know that Indiana Wesleyan students are changing the world? How do you know how well they are prepared in leadership, in scholarship? And how do you measure those things? And character. Character is even harder than that. Well, it can be done. It can be done. And we did it. And it is being used to this day. So, what are some of the other measures? Enrollment, retention. How many students do you lose? In our associates program, in our adult side, we lose half the students by the end of the first year. And that's a disgrace. How can we ever have a globally prepared workforce if half of those students who go back to college fail? You can't do it. Can you imagine how they feel? How would you feel if you went back to school and failed? So, we have an obligation to prepare those students, to help them be successful. You know, efficacious teachers don't look at student failure as the student's responsibility. They look at it as their responsibility and what they're responsible for and accountable for. So, I would challenge all of you to think about what you're teaching, why you're teaching it, how you know you're teaching what the students need to learn, and how successful those students are. Thank you.